had a little bit of a close call about an hour before I came here tonight. I was making dinner, I was watching TV, I turned on the news, CNN, I think, and a Republican convention, and I started to get nauseous and a little dizzy, and I thought I had to go to the hospital, and then I turned the TV off and I was fine. So this is kind of a intersection of politics and personal content story, but didn't start that way. At first I thought it was about me. When I was 25 and dreamed of becoming a writer, I reached a very strange place. I was an intern for a big public relations agency in downtown Chicago, and my boss told me I had a great opportunity, had a great big new client. He wanted me to write a press release, and the client was kitty litter. Okay, well, thought this is a useful product, but I don't really think that I'm cut out to write a press release about kitty litter. I'm not a cat person. I tried. I didn't know what to do. I wrote things like, man, this stuff is really absorbent. That was it. I didn't last long in that place and started poking around for a job, and I somehow found a job without knowing anything about this organization. And I don't know how this happened, but I landed a writing job with one of the most legendary community activists this city has ever seen. Her name was Gail Sincata. And as the country tears itself apart, I remember how much Gail brought people together, and how for 2 years I was lucky enough to write about it and get into some trouble. Gail was a huge woman with a gigantic blonde afro. She had 6 sons and got involved in all kinds of community issues and helped pass federal anti-discrimination housing legislation, and then formed a group that was a national coalition of community groups. One story about Gail was that she was in a neighborhood where there was a big rat problem. And the landlord and alderman, in finest Chicago tradition, didn't do a damn thing about it. So what Gail did was she led dozens of people to the alderman's office and nailed a rat to his door. The next day, the rats were on the way out.
Yes.
Really.
Nice.
Gail ran the place where I worked, along with another major character, a great person, a community organizer named Shel Trapp, who had once been an assistant pastor in a suburban church. He went down south during the civil rights era, and the pastor in his church told him, if you keep doing this kind of thing, you'll never get a suburban church. So he said, well, maybe I don't want one, and he organized in Chicago for the next 40 years. Every year, Gail and Shel mobilized about 400 people from groups around the country who were working on housing, education, and other issues, and took buses to Washington, D.C. I'd never done anything like this in my life, but suddenly I was reaching out to the media and sitting on a bus chanting protest songs. And I emphasize this, nobody asked me to write a press release about kitty litter. Well, it turns out that the one thing this group did when they went to DC and other places was they had something called hits. I didn't know what this was, but basically it's surprise demonstrations where a few hundred people peek over a building and demand a meeting with leadership at that place. And it was a lot of fun. It was not violent, but it was kind of an extension of civil disobedience of the 60s. So we get to DC, and I had the assignment of going to the National Association of Home Builders, just me. And my job was to check out the stairwells and elevators to see where we might bring 400 people at a surprise demonstration 2 days later. I left, I called my dad, and I said, Dad, guess what I'm doing with my college education? I'm spying on buildings. My dad said, Jesus Christ, what kind of schmuck are you? So anyway, I go back to the hotel where we're staying, and this group had been doing this for about 20 years. And I get back to the hotel, and I sent out a press release, and I guess the media and politicians knew we were coming and what we're up to. And there's a message on my TV screen for me to call an assistant to Jack Kemp, who at that time was Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, the highest housing office in the country. And I thought, I'm screwed. I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to get arrested. This is the end. I'm going to write the next press release about kitty litter. So I go to Shell and I say, Shell, this is what happened. And he looks at me and goes, oh, this is just great. We know exactly what to do with this. I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. Gail and Shell got on the phone with Kemp's people, and somehow they were scared of us, not the other way around. And Kemp's person said, you can't come to Kemp's house on Saturday. There's a bridal party for both of his daughters. Gail just smiled. And out of that, she negotiated a meeting with Jack Kemp 2 days later. Meanwhile, during that meeting, I was with 400 people surprising the executives at the National Association of Home Builders. We got a meeting there too. It was great fun, and it really did work. And the next day, getting back to Chicago, I'm talking to Gail and say, Gail, I'll see you tomorrow. And she looks at me and says, no. Take the day off, and I'll see you on Wednesday. I thought, wow, this is real. I'm never going back to that public relations agency. Democracy was loud, messy, it could be fun. And like today, we still had a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
Keep going for Dan.